People are not disturbed by things, but by the view they take of them. Epictetus. In a world full of noise, distraction, and performance, your stillness is powerful. Your silence makes people uncomfortable, not because you're cold, but because your presence holds a truth they can't ignore. You don't chase attention, yet it finds you. You don't speak loudly, yet your energy fills the room. This is not arrogance, it's alignment, a quiet magnetism that comes from knowing who you are and who you're not. Today, we're exploring why people can't handle your energy and the 10 signs that you carry a spiritually magnetic presence in a world that has forgotten how to be still. Let this be your mirror, because if your presence has been misunderstood, you're exactly where you're meant to be. Lesson 1: you operate at a higher frequency. In a world that is constantly loud, fast, and chaotic, your energy stands out, not because it demands attention, but because it doesn't. While most people are caught in survival mode, rushing to prove themselves, constantly reacting to stress and chasing validation, you move differently. You move with purpose, calm, and intention. Your energy doesn't compete, it doesn't chase, it doesn't scream, it simply exists. And that alone is powerful. You are not here to match the noise of the world. You're here to stabilize it. Your peace is not accidental. It's the result of deep inner alignment. While others are constantly seeking external validation, you've found a sense of worth that comes from within. That internal stillness reflects in how you walk, how you speak, and how you respond. You don't react emotionally to every situation. You observe, you listen, and when you do act, it comes from a place of clarity, not impulse. That's why your energy affects people without you trying. Sign 13. People often stare at you, even in silence. They may not understand why, but your presence carries a stillness that disrupts the unconscious patterns they're used to. You carry a kind of weight, not heavy, but grounding, the type of energy that makes others aware of themselves simply by being near you. Sign 12. People either deeply admire you or deeply avoid you. There's rarely a middle ground. That's because your vibration naturally either aligns with someone or exposes their disconnection. When people are living out of alignment with themselves, with truth, with integrity, your calm becomes uncomfortable. Your very presence feels like a mirror, reflecting back what they haven't yet faced. Those who are ready for growth will feel drawn to you. Those who are not will retreat. Sign 11. You feel drained around shallow, fake, or low vibrational people, not because you're judgmental, but because your sensitivity picks up on what others are trying to hide. You don't just hear their words, you feel the energy behind them. Pretending, manipulation, drama, it all weighs on your spirit. That's why you naturally withdraw from environments and people that feel energetically off. You're not being antisocial. You're protecting your alignment. Your frequency is higher, not in a superior sense, but in a spiritually refined sense. It's the result of doing inner work, of choosing peace over drama, of healing rather than projecting, of being grounded instead of reactive. And while not everyone will understand this energy, those who are truly awake will feel it. Your presence won't be for everyone, but for the few who are ready to rise, it will feel like home. Lesson 2. You see through people instantly. Most people spend their lives performing. They wear masks that blend in with expectations, smiling when they're exhausted, pretending when they're broken, speaking what's polite instead of what's real. The world has become a stage, and for many, hiding their truth has become second nature, but not to you. You have the rare ability to see past the surface, beyond the words, beneath the roles people play. You can feel their intentions even when they try to mask them with charm. You can detect discomfort behind a forced smile, pain behind loud laughter, and deceit behind smooth words. This ability doesn't come from suspicion or judgment. It comes from your own depth. From years of introspection, healing, and learning to be honest with your own emotions, you've developed a kind of inner radar that senses energy before words even form. That's why conversations with you are never shallow. People feel either deeply seen or deeply exposed in your presence, and that can be terrifying for someone who's not ready to face themselves. Your eyes don't just look, they read. They read inconsistencies, emotional tension, energetic imbalances. You don't just observe behavior, you feel the undercurrent of what's unsaid. You've likely had moments where, sign 4, someone starts confessing personal things to you without knowing why. They may say, "I don't know why I'm telling you this," as they open up about things they've hidden for years. That's because your energy creates a space of non-judgment, a spiritual safety net. People can sense, on an intuitive level, that they don't need to pretend around you. And so, truth flows. Sign 3. You sense danger, dishonesty, or emotional instability before anyone else does. You can feel when someone is manipulating a situation, not because you analyze every move, but because something in your spirit just doesn't resonate with theirs. It's not logic, it's vibration, and you've learned to trust it. Sign 2 people feel threatened by your insight and pull away even if you've done nothing wrong. It's not that you exposed them, it's that they couldn't keep pretending in your presence. They feel naked, not because you removed their mask, but because your energy made it impossible to wear one. This spiritual insight is not something you asked for. It's something you were given. It's a responsibility, not a weapon. And at times, it's heavy, because seeing people clearly doesn't always mean you can keep them close. You see the patterns they're repeating. You see the wounds they're projecting. You see their potential, but also their resistance to it. It's hard to watch people live in denial when you can already feel the truth vibrating through their energy. And sometimes you wish you could unsee what you see, to just blend in like everyone else. But that's not your path. You were given this insight not to judge others, but to hold space for truth. You are a mirror, reflecting people back to themselves. Some will thank you, others will run, but never dim your clarity to make others comfortable in their illusions. Seeing through people is not a curse, it's a spiritual gift. But like all sacred gifts, it must be held with humility, compassion, and boundaries. You are not meant to heal everyone you see. You're meant to protect your peace while honoring your vision. Lesson 3. You're comfortable in solitude. There is something sacred, unshakable, and quietly powerful about a soul that has grown to feel at home in its own company. In a world that never stops moving, where everyone is constantly trying to be seen, heard, validated, and entertained, to choose solitude is to walk a path very few dare to travel. But you walk it with grace. You don't see silence as emptiness. You don't fear time alone. You don't feel lost when the crowd disappears. Instead, you return to yourself like a monk to the monastery, where everything external falls away and only the truth remains. While others find their sense of identity in how much attention they receive or how many people fill their space, you have come to know that your true self only fully awakens in stillness. You've discovered that solitude is not the absence of connection. It's the beginning of it. It's where you reattune your spirit. It's where you commune with the divine. It's where you unclutter the noise of the world and listen again to the voice within, the voice that most people have long silenced or forgotten. You've come to realize that your peace isn't found in the presence of others. It's found in the presence of presence itself. And that discovery has changed everything about how you carry your energy. You no longer chase shallow conversations or crowded rooms. You no longer force laughter in environments where your soul feels quiet. You no longer dilute your light just to be accepted. You've stopped asking for seats at tables where your spirit isn't welcome, and you've stopped feeling guilty about it, because solitude has taught you that your energy is sacred, your attention is currency, your time is life itself, and anything that costs your peace is too expensive. You've walked through the kind of loneliness that breaks illusions. You've sat with yourself in the dark, in seasons when no one else stayed, and you realized something others have not, that even in the absence of company, you were never truly alone. Allah was always with you. That awareness reshaped you. It grounded you. It removed the desperation from your presence. You stopped trying to prove yourself. You stopped needing to be included in every conversation or noticed in every crowd. You understood that not being everywhere is a form of strength. That being selective is not arrogance, it's spiritual intelligence. Because every interaction leaves an imprint. Every room carries energy. And your peace is too valuable to place in hands that do not know how to hold it gently. That's why you've become more intentional. You don't accept every invitation. You don't respond to every message. You don't say yes just to avoid discomfort. You've tasted the depth of inner alignment, and now superficiality tastes bitter. The more time you've spent in solitude, the sharper your perception has become. You walk into rooms and feel energy before words are spoken. You sit in silence and still feel full. You disconnect from the world, and instead of feeling left behind, you feel reconnected to what matters most. That's a kind of wealth that can't be bought, and a kind of power that doesn't need to be displayed. And because you've learned to thrive in your own company, your presence has taken on a different weight. You no longer walk into spaces seeking validation. You arrive with a stillness that holds presence. You don't need to dominate conversations to be remembered. Your energy lingers without you saying much. This is why you naturally display sign number 6. You feel recharged in solitude, not drained by it, because your energy doesn't depend on external stimulation. It renews itself in the quiet. And this is also why you often experience sign number 9. You attract spiritual tests disguised as relationships, because solitude has refined your spirit. And now the universe sends people who either challenge your peace or mirror your growth. You've learned to tell the difference. You no longer hold on to people out of habit or fear. You release what disturbs your inner clarity, not in bitterness, but in wisdom. You understand that not all connections are meant to stay. Some are simply sent to reveal something within you, a boundary that needed to be set, a truth that needed to be faced, a lesson that needed to be learned. And so you walk with discernment now, calm, observant, rarely reactive. You don't rush, you don't perform, you don't explain your peace to those committed to their chaos. You've realized that those who truly see you will never ask you to shrink. They will never mislabel your silence as weakness. They will understand without words that your quiet is a form of wisdom, that your solitude is a space where your spirit breathes. And yes, people may misunderstand it. They may assume you're distant, uninterested, or arrogant. But that doesn't disturb you anymore, because you no longer live to be understood by everyone. You live to remain aligned with the one who made you. And that alignment was born in the silence no one else sat through but you. You don't need to explain the peace you fought for. You don't need to invite everyone into the space that healed you. You don't need to apologize for protecting the energy that took years to rebuild. Your solitude is your sanctuary. Your presence is your prayer. And your peace is your power. Others may never understand how you find joy without crowds, how you grow in stillness, how you stay grounded while the world spins in noise. But that's because they've never taken the journey inward. They've never sat with their wounds long enough to let them speak. They've never touched the silence where God whispers. But you have. And because of that, you carry something rare, something timeless, something magnetic. Not because you demand attention, but because you no longer need it. And that freedom, that depth, that holy stillness in your soul, that's what people feel when you walk into the room. That's what makes you unforgettable. That's what makes your energy too much for the unhealed and just enough for the awakened. Lesson 4. You trigger what others suppress. There is something undeniably intense about carrying energy that doesn't just enter a room. It alters it. Not through effort, not through words, not through any visible display, but simply through presence. You have become that kind of presence. You don't walk around trying to change people. You don't preach. You don't confront unnecessarily. In fact, you often say very little. Yet still, your existence feels like pressure to some, because your very being is a mirror. And most people are not ready to see what lies behind the face they show the world. You carry an energy that reflects everything others are trying to avoid, and this reflection, though unintentional, is unavoidable. While many people walk around suppressing their wounds, hiding their insecurities beneath achievement or image or humor, you carry yourself in a way that makes those masks tremble. You don't even need to say anything. You don't need to correct anyone, question them, or analyze their behavior. Your stillness, your awareness, your silent clarity does it all for you. You are not the cause of their discomfort. You are the activator. The energy you carry triggers what they've buried, and not everyone is ready for that kind of awakening. That's why you often experience sign number 10. Your presence heals or exposes. There's no in-between. You may have noticed how people either feel safe and emotionally open around you, or tense, defensive, and resistant. That polarity is not a flaw. It is the natural consequence of spiritual depth. You are not shallow, so you don't allow others to stay surface level around you. The people who feel exposed by your energy may project discomfort onto you, blaming you for how you make them feel, not realizing that it is not you. They are confronting themselves for the first time in years, and it's terrifying. You have learned, perhaps painfully, that being spiritually magnetic doesn't always feel good. It doesn't always attract love and admiration and gratitude. Sometimes it attracts projection, resentment, and confusion. People start placing their unhealed pain onto you. You say no to something small, and suddenly you're too much or too distant. You express a boundary, and now you're selfish. You walk away silently, and now you're arrogant. What you're really experiencing is sign yin 8. Others project their fears and insecurities onto you, not because you deserve it, but because your very existence shakes the illusions they've built their identity around. When people haven't faced their pain, they cannot separate what you did from what it reminded them of. You become the symbol, the scapegoat, the reflection. You are their mirror, and mirrors don't lie. But when a person has spent years lying to themselves about who they are, what they want, what they fear, and what they believe they deserve, the truth is not a comfort. It is a confrontation. And confrontation often shows up as blame. So they push you away. Not because you did something wrong, but because your energy activated something within them that they weren't ready to sit with. You didn't mean to expose them. In fact, you were likely just existing, calm, still, aware. Perhaps you even loved them, supported them, gave them space to grow. But that's the thing. When you have depth, it creates discomfort in those who are shallow. When you are aligned, it highlights the misalignment in those who live in chaos. When you are spiritually disciplined, emotionally intelligent, self-aware, it reveals everything that others still need to work on. And this is where you begin to see the difference between people who are ready to grow and those who are attached to their comfort zone. The ones who are ready will feel drawn to you, not because you make them feel good, but because you make them feel honest. They'll want to elevate, not for your approval, but because they glimpse their potential through you. They'll feel the challenge of being around you, and instead of resenting it, they'll rise to meet it. But others will do the opposite. They will resist the version of themselves they become when they're near you. They'll try to shrink you so they don't have to expand. They'll label your peace as arrogance, your silence as rejection, your strength as intimidation. Because it's easier to blame you than to look within, and this is where your solitude begins to make even more sense. You realize that your journey has made you a vessel, not of perfection, but of pressure. You apply pressure just by existing, because your life reminds others of the healing they've avoided, the courage they haven't yet found, the truth they continue to suppress. But you are not responsible for how others react to your vibration. You are not here to shrink for the comfort of those who refuse to rise. You are not here to explain your peace to people addicted to chaos. Your purpose is not to be universally liked. It is to be authentically aligned. And sometimes that means you'll lose people, not because you pushed them away, but because they weren't ready for what your presence reflected. That is not your burden to carry. It is your clarity to honor. Do not betray your growth just to make others feel safe in their limitations. The beautiful paradox is this: the very thing that repels some people from your life is what also deeply attracts others into it. The more you become yourself, unapologetically, mindfully, spiritually, the more you will magnetize those who are seeking the same. Your light will no longer be a threat. It will become a path. Your truth will no longer feel too sharp. It will feel like oxygen. And the ones who once projected onto you, they may return one day, not for validation, but in search of the honesty they once resisted. Or they may never return at all. And that too is divine timing. Because the people who are truly meant to be in your life will not run from your reflection. They will stand in it. They will respect it. They will be grateful for it. They will mirror it back. So when your energy feels too much, when your silence is misread, when your boundaries are challenged, when your peace is mistaken for pride, remember this: your presence doesn't disturb people. It wakes them. And not everyone wants to wake up. But for those who do, you will become a catalyst, a reminder, a light post. Your energy is medicine, and medicine isn't always sweet, but it always heals. Lesson 5. You don't beg for acceptance, you attract alignment. There comes a time in every awakened soul's journey when the need for approval dissolves, not because you've hardened your heart, but because you've softened into your truth. You begin to understand that chasing validation from others is a form of self-abandonment. And the more you compromise your essence just to be accepted, the more you lose connection with who you really are. That realization doesn't happen overnight. It happens after years of bending yourself to fit in, silencing your intuition to please the crowd, lowering your vibration so others wouldn't feel threatened by your light, and apologizing for the very qualities that made your spirit magnetic in the first place. Eventually, you outgrow the performance. You stop explaining your silence. You stop decorating your boundaries. You stop begging for belonging in places where your soul has always felt unseen. That is the turning point. That is when everything shifts. That is when you begin to live from a different frequency, not one that seeks, but one that simply is. You move from force to flow, from people-pleasing to self-respect, from fitting in to standing firmly in who you are, regardless of who claps. And in doing so, you unlock the rarest kind of magnetism: energetic alignment. A quiet, rooted power that doesn't chase anything, and yet everything meant for it finds its way effortlessly. This is when you begin to notice something strange. The more you detach from needing to be accepted, the more people start paying attention. The more silent you become, the louder your presence gets. You walk into rooms without trying to impress, and yet heads turn. Not because of what you're wearing or how you speak, but because you are centered, present, and at peace with yourself. You embody sign number 1. People stare at you, even in silence, not because you're loud, but because you're grounded. In a world that moves in desperation, you move in calm. In a culture obsessed with performance, your stillness becomes unforgettable. You no longer seek to be seen. Your authenticity makes you visible without trying. And in that visibility, something even more surprising happens. People begin to emulate you. They mimic the way you speak. They adopt your style. They repeat your phrases, use your insights, copy your posture, your tone, your rhythm. Not out of malice, but because your energy is deeply influential. It's sign number 7. People copy your style, your words, your energy, a direct result of choosing alignment over approval. You didn't set out to be a trend. You didn't aim to be followed. You simply chose to be real in a world of masks, and that truth reverberated louder than any performance ever could. And yet, this stage of your journey also demands maturity, because when you no longer beg to be chosen, you must be prepared to walk away from people who only loved the version of you that made them comfortable. You begin to understand that real alignment often requires separation. You're no longer angry when doors close. You're curious. You're no longer offended when someone pulls away. You're discerning. You begin to trust that anyone who truly belongs in your life will feel at home in your truth, not just your filtered self. And those who cannot handle your boundaries, your clarity, or your calm, were only aligned with your unhealed version. You bless their exit and honor your own evolution. You no longer cling. You no longer convince. You no longer twist yourself into shapes you were never meant to hold. And this is where your energy starts to elevate to a level that cannot be explained, only felt. You become someone others want around but can't quite understand. You're rare and you know it, not in a way that makes you arrogant, but in a way that makes you careful. Careful about who you allow into your inner world. Careful about where your energy flows. Careful about what you entertain, not because you fear the world, but because you finally learned to value the light inside you. And you protect that light, not with walls, but with awareness, not with ego, but with alignment. The deeper truth is, you no longer seek to be accepted because you've accepted yourself. Fully, without condition, without apology, without needing outside approval to feel worthy of your own presence. You've made peace with your flaws, your history, your gifts, your shadows. You've spent time in the dark with yourself, and you've come out holding your own hand. You are no longer looking for someone to complete you. You've become complete through the process of remembering who you were before the world told you to be someone else. And that completeness makes you deeply magnetic. It's why people don't just admire you. They wonder how you became like this. How did you reach a point where you no longer need to be liked? How did you get so grounded, so free, so clear? The answer is not glamorous. It's not a secret. It's that you stopped chasing alignment with others and started aligning with yourself. That is the essence of true spiritual magnetism. That is the silent force that pulls real relationships, real abundance, real opportunities toward you. Not because you need them, but because you are now a vibrational match for what's real. This is when your presence becomes a filter. You no longer ask, "Do they like me?" You begin to ask, Does this connection honor the version of me I've worked so hard to become? You no longer perform just to belong. You observe to see if it's even a space you want to enter. You choose resonance over reaction. You choose truth over tension. You choose solitude over anything that disturbs your spirit. And in that sacred refusal to beg, you create a life that reflects your soul, not your wounds. You begin to see clearly. Alignment doesn't cost your peace, it expands it. Real love doesn't demand your silence, it celebrates your voice. Real connection doesn't drain your energy, it adds to it. And anything that costs your alignment is too expensive, no matter how familiar or attractive it seems. So yes, you don't beg for acceptance anymore. You don't bend to be chosen. You don't trade authenticity for attention. You live aligned. And because of that, you have become magnetic without effort. The kind of person who walks into a space and doesn't have to say much, but people feel something shift. They sit up straighter. They listen closer. They reflect deeper. Because your energy isn't just present, it's aligned. And alignment speaks louder than volume ever could. Conclusion. You were never meant to fit into a world that doesn't understand the language of energy. From the beginning, your presence has spoken before your words, and your silence has often echoed louder than the loudest voices around you. You didn't come here to explain that energy. You came here to embody it, to protect it, and to rise into it without seeking permission. Every lesson you've lived has refined your frequency, not by accident, but by divine design. You learned, often through loneliness and heartbreak, that operating at a higher frequency would separate you from the crowd, but connect you with something far greater, yourself, your creator, and your purpose. You saw through people not because you wanted to, but because your soul had grown too honest to entertain illusions. You embraced solitude not as a retreat, but as a sacred return to the parts of yourself the world taught you to ignore. You became the mirror that exposed what others didn't want to face, and instead of running from that truth, you chose to remain rooted in it. And as you detached from the need to be accepted, you began to attract something purer than attention: alignment. A deep, unshakable sense of knowing that what is meant for you will find you, not through effort or performance, but through resonance. The world might misunderstand you. People might project onto you. They might copy you, stare at you, love you one day and fear you the next. But none of that defines you. What defines you is your choice to keep showing up as your whole self, undiluted, unbothered, unshaken. You are no longer here to explain your energy, shrink your presence, or soften your power to make others feel more comfortable in their suppression. You are here to walk in the frequency of truth, to live in the rhythm of peace, and to attract everything that is aligned with your soul without ever begging for what requires you to betray it. That is your power. That is your legacy. That is your alignment.